My whole life, I had thought this was the thing to shoot for. This was what would make me happy and successful and make people like me. But
Yeah.
actually, it was not.
Yeah.
That when research showed that early women were these buff, badass creatures, they weren't sitting around thinking about ways to lose weight. They were like, hunting and
Yeah.
were muscular. In fact, there was one uh, piece of research that I found fascinating, which said that the prehistoric women were built like Olympic rowers today in terms of their bone size and density. And I was like, that is the OG woman.
Sports taught you how to compete, how to lead, how to push past limits when no one was watching. But what happens when the season ends, when the uniform comes off and the identity shifts? Welcome to the Beyond Her Game podcast. I'm Tori Barker, former Division I softball player and founder of Beyond Her Game. Athletes are trained to pursue excellence and lead under pressure, but no one prepares us for life when the game changes. This podcast is for female athletes building what comes next. We talk about business, brand, money, mindset, and identity beyond sports. The things no one teaches you in the locker room. Because the skills you built through sports don't disappear. They're just the beginning. Welcome to Beyond Her Game. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us again on the podcast. Today, I have the pleasure of introducing you to my guest, Anne Marie Chaker. How are you?
Hey, Tori, I'm good.
So, I'm excited for you to share your story because it's a little bit unique in the sense that your athletic career, if you will, has started a little bit later in life. And so, a lot of people listening, may have been, from age 5 to whatever they are now, playing sports and all of that. So, I'd love for you to talk about your journey in becoming an athlete, which then now led you to this book that you have.
Yeah, so my story started kind of at this difficult time in my life. I um basically was this year where every horrible, terrible thing that could have happened kind of happened.
Yeah.
I was a fairly new mom and dealing with postpartum depression, and then my dad, who lived a couple doors down, died suddenly of a heart attack a couple weeks after my baby was born.
Ugh.
And then pretty soon after that, my marriage ended. So it was just like boom, boom, boom. Every like lousy thing that could have happened could have happened. And
Yeah.
um, I had never been much of a drinker, but I started leaning on alcohol to cope. It started just as like a half a glass of wine to take the edge off, and it became more and more and more. And I started like craving it at some point, and I remember getting on a work call at 4:30 and hearing my words slur, and I thought, well, that's not a good sign.
Yeah. Yeah.
So all this came to a head when I took my kids to an ice hockey tournament. I was coaching my daughter's ice hockey team at the time, and we were staying at a hotel. And in this hotel was a fitness room. And I poked my head in there, and in this fitness room was this hockey mom who was just killing her workout. She looked incredible. She was muscular. She was beautiful. And I kind of looked at her and I looked at myself and I thought, my God, what had happened to me? And so I was totally inspired by this woman to like change my wicked ways and get on a healthier path. And so that's where it all started.
Yeah. So did you like when you were a kid, did you play sports? Were you like athletic, just kind of
Yeah.
like for fun? Like, and what
I
happened?
was
And yeah.
Yeah, I was sporty as a kid. And I was actually a very passionate figure skate. I love figure skating.
Oh.
That was my sport of choice. And then in college I rode crew. But then what happened after college, so I definitely identified as an athlete.
Yeah.
But then what happened after college was there was nowhere else to go.
Mm.
Everything was very coded for women anyway at this time. It was very coded and kind of like fitness was weight loss. And,
Yeah.
there was starting to be like Pilates studios cropping up and stuff like that. And it always felt kind of like the message was like, fix yourself. You're not skinny
Yeah.
enough.
Yeah.
And that wasn't appealing to me at all. So it's interesting, like once the world of like coaches and team sports and like real athleticism was over, like it was over. Like there was not, and like nothing, like there were, I remember after I'd had my babies, like there were, the marathon group, the mommy groups pushing the strollers, and like that didn't appeal to me.
Yeah.
Yoga didn't appeal to me. So it was kind of like, I don't know. There wasn't anything out there.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Well,
Yeah.
I love that you talked about like being athletic growing up and then playing in college, right? Because a lot of this, there's so many, the more people I talk to, you see these like transition points in life, right? And
Yeah.
depending on what age you are, it's a little bit different. Like I'm in my 40s, right? So back when I was in college and then going out of college, there wasn't much opportunities outside of the sports to go pro. It was like go
Right.
pro, like where are you gonna go? Like
Right.
or go to the Olympics? Like that's like a 0 point something percent chance. So it's like there
Right.
wasn't much to do from there. So it's like you come up against this identity shift. And that's what I talk a lot about is like the identity of you as the athlete and how do you move past that to understand who you truly are underneath. And it's like everyone says once an athlete, always an athlete. So like this has kind of been an underlined, part of you throughout your life. And then you get to this point in your 40s where you're like looking for something else and you come across bodybuilding. And so it's like you just picked up where you almost left off, right, in your college
Yeah.
career. But so what lessons did you learn from bodybuilding that you were
Yeah.
maybe surprised from? Like, what was it about that really, you're in this new transition, if you will?
Yeah, it's interesting because it was just like bodybuilding was not like in the car. Like I would have never thought this
Yeah.
for myself. Like I was a Wall Street Journal reporter and like I was part of this very kind of straight-laced, office culture. And but that's what I loved about bodybuilding. It really took me out of like the spaces that I was used to. And
Yeah.
it was this like weird, wild world of like spray tans and muscles and bikinis that with bling. And um, I fell into the sport because I started training under a retired bodybuilder to learn the gym again.
Mm,
And to my surprise, it was not about, cardio bunny and losing weight. And it was about like, here are the heavy lifts that you need
mm,
to learn. And I started going to the gym again to lift heavy weights. And I was part of this community of women. Like there was a shared Facebook group, and we would all like exchange pictures of our like development and tips,
yeah.
and and it was all about like, look at this new bicep I've got, and look at the moreness of this like quad I've got. And it was just like, it was all about like the getting bigger, right?
Yeah.
And look at the new muscles I'm developing. And there was a lot of like body pride around that.
Mm,
And I thought that was wicked cool. Like
yeah.
that was new for me. And pretty soon I like started seeing bodies and body ideal in a whole new way. Like I was no longer like, I was psyched to have more body on me. I loved the look of muscle on, I fell in love with the look of muscle on the body.
Yeah.
So, and I learned under this coach that like, food was not something to fear. It was something to, consume to optimize, and
Mm,
more protein was a good thing, and eat well to, so it was just like kind of like relearning like food, nutrition, feeding
yeah.
myself. And the weight on the scale was going up, but I was happier and more productive and like liked my body better. So it was all this was a
Yeah.
very interesting journey. And so that's what led me into the sport. And I it's funny because I couldn't tell my mom for a long time what I was doing because I was like, oh my God, she's going to be like, what? Um, but I loved this kind of, you know, like entering this world that was different, and could be sexy and strut on the stage and
Yeah.
muscles and spray tans and big hair and big makeup, and I just loved all of it. Yeah.
Well, it opened up a whole new world for you, right? Like
Yeah.
something that was like totally outside of your comfort zone
Yeah.
and totally new environment. Like you said, a new way of looking at your body and strength and power in a whole different way. While also kind of like itching that athletic scratch, right? You know what I mean?
Right.
We all have that in us to some degree, like
Totally.
competitiveness or like taking, I was just talking to someone the other day about women who are in C-suite, like, high level business owners. Most of those women played sports. They were
Yeah.
leaders in sports and athletics. And so it's like, however you apply that lessons learned or those skill sets from athletics, it just comes into your world in so many different ways and maybe even unexpected ways, right?
Right, right. Yeah, no, I think the lessons we learn from sports and athletics um definitely carry in all kinds of ways. I've been surprised myself, like certain moments in my career or in like even career transition, like,
Yeah,
I started my own business, and that takes a certain amount of hustle, and you
yeah,
know, I there's part of that, the feeling of like the hustle, and like it feels very athletic to me.
yeah,
It rings back to the days when I was like pushing myself. I'm just pushing myself in a
yeah,
different way. But it's
yeah.
fun.
It's
It's
fun.
fun.
I love it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So your career has been in journalism, and like you
Mhm.
said, now you've kind of shifted into your own business. But what
Mhm.
led you to write this book?
Yeah. So what happened was I ended up doing a bodybuilding competition. So after a couple years working with this coach, she was like, you put on muscle pretty easily. You should consider like entering one of these things. And I was like, oh, no, 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 that's so dumb. I'm not doing that. And then I don't know, like I thought I gave it like a week, or after a while, I thought, you know what? I'll do it. Like,
Yeah,
what the fuck? I'll do it. And it'll be a lark, and I'll get a story. I'll write a story about it for the journal. It'll be an experience. And so
yeah,
I decided to do it. And I wrote about these. So I did really well at it. I won my pro card at the thing. And I wrote this story for the Wall Street Journal about like, this hard time I'd been through and discovering weights and how it changed in the bodybuilding. And this story went viral. It went bananas.
wow,
And that story led to the book deal with Penguin Random House. And so I decided to write this book that was, not just like me, but it was really an exploration of the history of the skinny ideal. What was so
mm,
striking to me is that my whole life, I had thought this was the thing to shoot for. This was what would make me happy and successful and make people like me. But
yeah,
actually, it was not.
yeah,
That when research showed that early women were these buff, badass creatures, they weren't sitting around thinking about ways to lose weight. They were like, hunting, and
yeah,
were muscular. In fact, there was one uh, piece of research that I found fascinating, which said that the prehistoric women were built like Olympic rowers today in terms of their bone size and density. And I was like, that is the OG woman. That's why I look and perform better in this state than I did
yeah,
then,
yeah,
when I was chasing skinny. So I thought this was really worth an exploring, that, the OG female is a buff badass, and why are we sitting around trying to be thin when we should all be building
Yes.
muscle, and
Yeah.
muscle is the secret sauce to a longer and stronger life. And since the book, there's been a lot of research now, a lot of attention on the power of strength
Yeah.
training and
Yeah.
its impact on bone density and why it's so good for women. And so these are all good things. But yeah, that's what the book is about. And
Yeah.
married with my own story and of
Yeah.
self-discovery. But it's also like, here's what you can do, like here's how you can start thinking about building muscle and here are, some exercises and programming, and here's how I
Yeah.
think about food and protein and da 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 da. So
Yeah, and it's so amazing that so you mentioned about like the research about strength building, right? And I
yeah.
think as I look at athletes, especially like female student athletes at the collegiate level right now,
Mhm.
there's so I the strength training involved for each of these sports has got
Yeah.
to be like insane because I remember when I was in college, we did strength training and it was just kind of like twice a week we went and did weights and like just kind of the
Right.
basics. And playing softball, it was like great, right? Strength for base running and quick speeds and this or all of that stuff. But I watch like girls softball now, and there are these young women are hitting home runs like nobody's business. And I'm thinking to myself, gosh, they must be doing something in the weight room for certain strengths, right? Like in their legs and
Yeah.
their arms and their back and core, like all of
Yeah.
this stuff that has to be coming from this different level of training that they're getting. Because there's
Yeah.
one freshman on a college softball team right now who's just hit a world record, or not a world record, but national record, maybe, I don't know. But she hit
Yeah.
like 31 home runs in her freshman season so far. And that's like crazy. And I'm thinking to myself, gosh, like we've been missing the boat. We should have been, strength training, preparing our bodies to the ultimate level. But I mean, to your point, you could do it even outside of your sport, right? You can do it, as just whoever, 20s, 30s, 40s, whatever age you're at, you can do the strength training to optimize
Yeah.
your body.
It's interesting how it's just become part and parcel of every sport now is
Yeah.
the building the strength and the strength training. It's always interesting to me, like watching the Olympics,
Oh,
like
yeah.
with each generation, we are just so much better and more dialed in and all kinds of the nutrition. Like we know more, right?
Yeah.
But it's fascinating to see like each generation like do more and better amazing things in the sport. So I'm with you watching the figure skaters and watching like the four revolutions just in the
Yeah.
air. First, like three was amazing when I
Yeah.
was okay, but four now is like unbelievable. So but
Yeah.
yeah, strength and to your point, you don't have to be an elite athlete. I
Yeah.
love the idea that women are, you know, um, hitting gyms like never before. Like there was this amazing statistic in the recent report by the Health and Fitness Association, which is the trade association for gyms, that like 51% of the people now in weight rooms, more than half of the people in weight rooms now are women. And
Wow.
a lot of those are midlife women who are doing this for longevity and bone health reasons. And you
Yeah.
don't need a lot. You can even set up a little corner in your house with just a few
Absolutely.
dumbbells and bands, and you can 15 minutes, you can get a pretty decent little
Yeah.
workout in. So it's for everyone for sure.
Yeah. So in this journey, how has it changed your confidence and your voice and your leadership and how you approach things?
Yeah, it's such a great question. I mean, there's no question that there's so many connections between physical strength and mental health. I mean, there's like countless studies that I point to in the book, and um, what what training does for everything from depression to Alzheimer's. I mean, I remember I was always struck by, I would I was never like a lift in the first thing in the morning type of person, but I would hit the gym, still do hit the gym at some point in the middle of the day and then come back to my laptop and I might take some calls. And just like hearing my voice on those calls or like the flood of ideas I would get
Yeah.
just always blew my mind because it's like your day is suddenly better. Like you feel better, your endorphins
Mm-hmm.
are up, you feel stronger, you perform better. And so that always amazed me. But yeah, there's a bunch of research that also supports that too.
Yeah, and I'm sure, reflecting on your own, challenging time in your life and almost taking the power back, right, from
Yeah,
that time has
yeah,
been, I'm sure, transformative for you.
yeah.
And it's like this like rebirth almost.
Yeah, I mean, I
That
think
you're
I told you like I when I started strength training, I just shortly after and it was after my marriage ended, of course, but I created a Match.com profile, and that's where I met my partner, Rick. And I just like I started wearing lipstick again. It was like so like there was something going on, and I
Yeah.
totally attribute it to the strength training. It just made me feel better inside and out.
I love that. Well, so I'd love to wrap this up and have you give like one piece of like final piece of advice. So for like the female athletes who are listening who are uncertain about like transition points or maybe they're ending their sport and they're not sure where to go next, what piece of advice would you give them?
I would say, you know, jo join a gym. I love a gym. I think there is community in a gym, and it's really easy now to work from home and kind of to be in your phone and computer and your social media. And I do have like a little gym setup at home and I use it in a pinch, but I really look forward to the moments in the day where I get off my desk, I go to a gym, and I see friendly faces. And I might not like interact with them, but I see the regulars. I fist bump a few the people at the desk. It is really healthy to get out and see people and be part of a community. So, and you don't have to give it a ton of time. Like I said, tell myself three things. I'm going to do three things today. This exercise, that exercise, three sets of 8 to 10. And then with that, you can actually get a great workout.
Yeah.
So, um, join a gym, three things, 3 times a week, three sets of 10 will be in good shape.
Well, and like you said earlier, it changes your mood, it changes your endorphins, it just will change the perspective. So, if you're in a
Totally.
rut or, trying to find community or a team again,
Yes,
certainly look in those spaces because it's not only going to help you physically and mentally, but it'll surround you with, a new community.
totally, totally. I
Yeah.
believe that.
So, how can people get a hold of your book or learn more about you?
So they can go to my website, annemariechaker.com, and the book is called Lift, and it's available on Amazon or wherever books are sold.
Awesome. Anne Marie, thank you so much for being a guest. It's so fun to share your story and be able to meet you and have this conversation today.
For what you're doing, Tori. You're awesome. Thank you.